A, how much more does that seem like a turning point for him as a young starting quarterback? And B, how many more signposts has he added on that path along the way in terms of toughness and leadership?
Yeah. Well, I still think quarterback is about experience, and it's about, the good days and the bad days and learning and growing from them. And I think the thing that I'm really proud of what I've watched with Rocco, and again, it's to his mentality. There's just such great curiosity from him on how does he become his best. And I don't think he ever feels like he's satisfied. I think he's a guy that's relentlessly trying to, as a leader, as a young man into a man, and really as a quarterback, every day I watch him working at his process to become great. And I really do appreciate that. And I would say probably that Ohio game is a turning point. I think there were some times in that first fall camp where, he shook off, maybe a little bit of a rusty start and just had the mental toughness to keep working through it. And, obviously there was some good competition along the way. And, he's had the ability to just kind of go to work and not worry about competition, not worry about the outside noise, but worry about himself. And I think he's a great reflector of our program, of, man, not really worrying about anything outside of our walls. How do we just constantly pound away at the process it takes for us to become our best? And I think as he's grown in that, we've grown with him, and that part's been a great joy for all of us.
And obviously, you've had a lot of great tight ends come through, sometimes at the same time with
Yeah.
Chase Dillon and Charlie. But what does this group give you that's unique? Because it feels like you can go into 13, 14 personnel, and you're heavy, but it's not necessarily going to be a running play.
Yeah. I just think their skill set is so multiple in what they can do. And we've always said, I think the elite tight ends, if you look in the National Football League, boy, they just aren't great receivers. They're great blockers. They're great pass blockers. They've got the ability to do all the things well. And that's why tight end, in my opinion, is one of the hardest positions in football to play, because you have to acquire so many great fundamentals and skills to be able to be an elite player at that position. And you're right, I think you saw the evolution of that with Charlie and Chase, because in Dillon, I think they were very similar in that mold where they were pass catchers, they could pass pro, they could run block. And I think this group has that same mentality, where, they're really good ball catchers, but equally they're really good blockers. They're on the ball blockers, they're perimeter blockers, they're pass blockers. They can do a lot of different things for us. So I think that's been really big for us. I go back to even our days at Toledo when we had guys that could do that. It just gave us so much multiplicity in what we could do offensively.
How do you address this rivalry with your team, especially with the guys who aren't from the state of Iowa, just understanding the magnitude of this game?
Yeah, I think you respect it, and I think the first and foremost, it is a great rivalry. It's it's obviously two programs that really care about this game, two universities, two fan bases. They're two biggest flagship universities in the state of Iowa. And so I think you respect the rivalry, but again, the uniqueness of this game when it's played, it's so early in the football season, and you have to understand that it's still about our growth, and it's still about our process, and it's still about how we work day in and day out to become our best. And so I think that's a balancing act, right? I think everybody wants you to say crazy things today, but the reality is you have great respect for your opponent. We do. We certainly have great respect for who they are and what they're about. But the reality of it is we have to be able to continue to grow forward this week if we want to play our best football come Saturday.
And with Coach Mouse, what are your thoughts on the way he's grown and involved in his role since he first took over, dating back to last year?
Yeah, I think a lot like Rocco. I think he's a guy that has grown up in our program, and I think Taylor's got he's got a great knowledge for the game of football. I think he really cares about his players. He really cares about people, and I think he equally has this humility about himself to be curious and use his great coaching staff around him and use the voices around him to put a product every Saturday that at least gives us the best chance to be successful. So I'm really proud of what Mouse has accomplished so far, and obviously he'll keep growing week in and week out as we continue to grow.
Matt, this series, since 2019, you've had game day here twice. Now Big Noon's coming in. What does it say about this series that it's getting now so much national attention?
Yeah, I think that goes back to it's twofold. Number one, I think the respect nationally for both programs. I don't know. I think we've had to work really hard to get our program to that point. Obviously what Coach Ferentz has done over the longevity of time has great respect for what he's accomplished, and certainly that program has accomplished. So I think when you look at it holistically, that's neat that it's garnered such national attention. There's a lot of great rivalry games in college football, and the fact that this one has become meaningful, I know that means a lot to certainly both programs.
So in that same vein, then, how have you seen this rivalry change over 10 years? And I guess has your perception of it changed over a decade as well?
Well, I think for me, I had to understand it a little bit coming in, not so much the game or the magnitude of it, but where it falls in the schedule. I just think it's unique. And obviously their program was so established by the time we came in here that, I felt like we've been playing catch up for a while in terms of the consistency that we want to play football, and obviously the consistency that they have played football. So again, just a lot of respect for the rivalry, a lot of uniqueness of playing this game so early. Obviously uniquely this year we're challenged where your two biggest rival, in terms of rival football games, you're playing those in the first 3 weeks of the season. And so, I just think it is what it is. It's how the schedule sits. And I think you have to grow and adapt and understand that a little bit along the way.
Willich, Bohr, any updates?
Yeah, I think both of them, I would say at best, are questionable. I don't know. I don't think either of those guys are obviously long-term, but I would say going into it, both are questionable right now.
How much do the results of this CyHawk series over, say, the past 10 years even matter to 18-year-old kids?
Yeah, I've said this before. I don't even know if 18 to 22-year-olds know what happened yesterday, and so I think there is great things with tradition and uniqueness and rivalries, and those things are awesome. But again, I think the focus has to be on the present. And I think when you get lost in the past and you go down some rabbit holes, you can not be available to be ready for the moment. We're just trying to have a great practice on Tuesday. And, I think that's hard enough as it is, in terms of coaching 18 to 22-year-olds, let alone 30, 40, 50-year-olds. Man, can you come and be your best version of you today? Because if you are, then we're going to be better tomorrow. And so that's really where we try to put our focus. But I think respecting and understanding what this rivalry means and what it looks like, absolutely. Diving into it to where, man, you can't be focused on the present. I think you can get yourself in big trouble that way.
Hey, Matt, two parts. This new Iowa quarterback, what do you see from him? And then when you scout him, are you watching tape from last year? How much do you weigh that compared to what you saw on Saturday from him?
Yeah, I think you have to. Number one, I think most importantly, there's a great respect for anybody that wins at the level that he's won. And I think he's tough. I think he's really physical. I think he's gritty. And again, a guy that's got championship pedigree, and that's what he has. And so, I just have the utmost respect for what I saw at South Dakota State, how he led his football team there. Hard read on Saturday in terms of what we're watching, but you saw a guy that just kept getting better and better and better throughout the football game. And obviously, he's got great components around him. He's got a tremendous offensive line, great running back room, great tight end room. Man, I think the evolution of their receiver room. I think they're a completely different team than they were 2 years ago. They're a team that really fits his skill set and allows them to be multiple. And certainly, I think you're going to see that and continue to see that evolve and grow.
Oh, sorry. I was not paying attention. Can you talk about Aiden Flora and what you've seen from him?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, Aiden, I think, again, like some of the great young players that have grown up in this program, like the Jake Hummels and some of those guys, it's just like, they've made their name on special teams. And Aiden is a guy that I think is just he's an unbelievable competitor. He's forced his way on the football field as a freshman a year ago. I mean, he had some big moments. If you go back to the bowl game, to what he's done on special teams for us and for this football team, it's incredible. I think his ceiling as a football player here is really high. He can run. He loves football. He's an elite competitor. We're really proud of him, and obviously he's going to have to continue to grow. But what he's done for us so far has been awesome.
Coach, it's been 7 years since the home team won in this series. Is that random? Well, maybe what's led to the road team having so much success?
Yeah, that's probably a really good question. I don't know if it's random or not. I think it's fact. So, I think the reality of playing your best at home in this game, I do think the uniqueness of, man, there is so much energy around this game. The home team probably feels that a lot more just because you're living in it from Thursday, Friday to Saturday. But yeah, those are things we've talked about a little bit just as a staff and certainly with our players. But I think it's certainly a unique stat. How do you come out and play your best football and be able to be ready to go, at 11:05? I think those are all things we got to challenge ourselves with, but I think it's a great point.
Coach, you just spoke on energy. Is there a different type of energy with your players this week, or a different mindset, or is it just kind of going forward like this is just another week?
Yeah, I don't think you could ever say in a rival game, we talked about this a little bit for K-State, I think you automatically feel the energy around, when there's a rival football game. But again, I think you're a fool if, man, how your process and how you're practicing changes, then you're not who you say you are, right? The great player is the same every day that he walks in this facility with an urgency and really a mindset to come get better. And again, that's what we have to do. That's why I think there's so much yo-yo up and down in college football. You don't know who's going to win any given Saturday because it's hard to be consistent. It's hard to show up and be your best every day. And so, again, you'd be foolish not to say you don't feel the excitement around a game like this. But if that dictates who you are, what your process is, how you get ready to play football, then I don't know if we'll be a very good football team because that's not what championship football looks like.